Welcome to Common Unity. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Dr. Gabriel Lewis. And we are bringing the community together with a common unity. Growl at me for growing a
Yeah, that's it.
It's a nice excuse.
I'm the ultimate excuse, mate, yeah.
I've been wrapped into My wife's like, every time I shave one, she's like, get that off.
They just don't understand, eh? Cold, heartless.
I love a Mo.
We love you with a Mo too, mate.
Oh, well, thank you.
Should I take the photo? Fuck, I haven't. Oh yeah, there it is. All right, welcome back to Common Unity. Pretty excited to bring this guest today. So a couple of years ago, this gentleman came to our BNI group and spoke for 10 minutes and inspired me to start a Movember group with our team. And we did pretty well. I think I raised about $4,500, and as a team, we were just shy of 10,000. And then, so went again last year. So totaled 6,739 over the last 2 years, inspired from this 10 minutes this man did. So let's find out. Roundy or Robert,
Yep.
Welcome to Common Unity.
Mate, thanks for having me in. Like, awesome. Like, that's such a good effort, brother. Like, and that's kind of the success of Movember, really, is that, you know, you just sort of roadies for the band. Like, you try and get to as many people as possible and tell them about what you do and the different messages we're trying to get out there and the change you're trying to create with men. And to hear that, like, you did that amongst your crew is awesome, mate. So well done, and thanks for having me in. And, you know, with only a few days out from Movember, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it's very good of you to make the time, because I put it out on Instagram. I was like, anyone got Roundy's details? And then here's his Instagram, hit him up, and you know, you will hear the next week. So
the power of the internet.
100%, and that's not an unusual way for people to get in touch with me. And also, like saying here before, you know, it is a busy time, but, you know, I live here in the Bay of Plenty, and anything I can do here or anything that keeps me around home, especially on a Friday, mate,
yeah, how good.
is so good. So I was in at Zesbury this morning and here with you guys today, and it means I don't have to be up in Auckland or out of town, which is, you know, needs to be done, and I actually enjoy that, but it's also pretty good to be pretty good to be around home as well and be able to pick up the kids today and all that good stuff. So
yeah, it's amazing. Well. We're glad we could keep you here in town.
So what kind of made you kind of start the Movember movement?
Yeah, I mean, I think the OGs who started in Australia, a group of hard case Australian guys who started it sort of in the hipster capital of the world, Fitzroy, Melbourne, you know, sort of 16, 17 years ago. I actually got to know them really well when I was on my OE living in London, like, you know, God, many years ago now. And through mates of mates, got to meet these guys, and they'd had a bit of success with Movember in Australia, and it was starting to grow organically into other parts of the world. At the time where I met them, that was London, and our mutual friend said, I've got these mates coming over and they're starting this Movember thing, and it's going quite well, and they need a bit of a hand because it's actually, particularly the expat community within London at that time, were jumping on it. You know, and sort of Canary Wharf, which was the business sector of London, was just full of moustaches, mainly Saffers and Aussies and Kiwis, all picking up the ball and looking for any opportunity to be hard case. And to be honest, an excuse to have a couple of beers as well. So I just jumped on board and for no cause or reason, just thought it seemed like a cool thing. Just volunteered, chipped in, real grassroots stuff. We organised all sorts of cool stuff in London, like New Zealand versus Australia rugby games and North Island, South Island sports events. And as I said, just a bit of fun. And I was in my mid-20s and just, you know, living the dream really in London with a whole lot of mates and just really enjoyed it. Found that, you know, bringing people together and sort of health by stealth a little bit with the whole just, you know, a bit of fun as a Trojan horse, get them all in and you can sort of slip the men's health message through the back door that sort of worked for young men then. And off the back of that, the lads said, it's actually, you know, we're not official in New Zealand, but there's heaps of, you know, we're getting a lot of inquiry and there's heaps of interest there as well. And what do you reckon? And long story short, I sort of said no in the first instance because I was still on the OE and my now wife were having a great time and didn't quite want to go home just yet, but came home a couple of years later and the opportunity was still there, and that was about 11 years ago now, and sort of definitely jumped in the deep end in some regards because you're very much a jack of all trades, master of nothing, you know, like you're across everything and some things you're better at than others. I was probably good with the event stuff and the community stuff and that was probably, you know, sort of the marketing stuff was probably not too bad, but then there's a whole lot of other things, commercial partners and contracts and all the different things that, grew over time that definitely wasn't my expertise, probably still isn't today. But
you learn these things though.
Oh, mate, you just get thrown in the deep end. And I remember some of those first meetings and like fancy agencies in Auckland and people speaking another language and talking about all these things. But yeah, like you say, you do it enough and you pick it up and now I suppose a lot of that stuff's become second nature and you don't have to tell people as much who you are. It's a bit more known, and so you're on the front foot on that side of it. But still pretty humbling, like you just go out there and people like yourself just doing good stuff, all in the name of Movember, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got like a really good movement, if you've got a Mo in November, everybody's asking, are you doing Movember? So you've got the word out there to kind of get it going. So
It's the first 2 weeks, how cringy are the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
you know who's doing Movember in the first 2 weeks.
100%, mate. And you're right, like it's like that movement's grown over time and now it's just a nod and a wink and people don't have to talk a little bit about why they're growing this moustache and why certain things within Movember and men's health have changed drastically. Essentially what we ask people to do in November for Movember is the same, grow, move or host, but grow being sort of, our badge of honour. And we'll never take away from that, like no matter how long the movement's around, because, to your point, and it's always a bit of a laugh, and I'm the guy who looks after Movember, but I'm not follically gifted, it doesn't just pop up overnight. When I have
you don't
shave,
use any oils or anything?
Well, I've done all sorts really over the years, a bit of cheating as well, but
mascara.
Like you say, totally, mate. But you do have those, you go the first week and people say, are you actually doing Movember? Yes, I am doing Movember. And, a bit of salt and pepper comes through, a bit of orange and all that sort of stuff, all that stuff that men like, a bit of banter, a bit of hard case stuff. But, if we're doing our job right over the course of the month, getting into the later part of it, that fun and irreverent stuff, that banter that guys really like, that informal shoulder-to-shoulder stuff, does turn to men's health conversations and a little bit of problem solving and talking about what's going on in life and do you know your family history and how you're going at the moment, mate, and anything I can do to help, and that's the beautiful part of it is for blokes that works, that sort of hard case stuff, and over time we build a bit of trust and respect through banter, and you can flip the switch a little bit and get us to sort of look out for each other in that way that blokes do, which is a bit different to our female counterparts.
I think it's quite important as well to create the awareness around something like men's health in general, because a lot of things get swept underneath the rug, or she'll be right, or I'm impenetrable and breakable. But once you create awareness there and actually, what I'm maybe experiencing is not quite the norm, maybe I get it checked out.
100%, mate, and you probably see it all the time in your work, and even you as well, dealing with men all the time. But I used to wonder in the first couple of years, sort of, we funded some stuff. I really liked that. I thought that was really good. Some of the programs we funded, I thought, geez, that's good stuff. And particularly when it came to mental health early doors, people weren't funding a lot of stuff. So we were sort of in there having a crack, which was cool. I always wondered a little bit about the moustache, the campaign, the education and awareness piece of Movember that happens in November. But I've just completely flipped on that now, like in terms of it's probably the best campaign or program that we fund and run. Just because, you see the stuff en masse, but just the anecdotal conversations that people are prepared to have with me now these days around what Movember's done for them, or the opportunity or the platform that the month provided for them to broach all sorts of things. And some of it's, from just, I'm so much tighter with the lads now, through to actually quite life-changing things. So, I actually think your point's a good one, mate, around, some of the opportunities that Movember provides by being, a fun and irreverent men's health month is actually really, really significant. And that's one, as people have got to understand a little bit more what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And then I think, you guys will hopefully back this up, that, we're getting better, as a society, as blokes, we are getting better at looking after ourselves and our mates. A little bit more proactive, 100%, and sort of trying to get ahead of the game a little bit, which I find, hugely satisfying and energising, and particularly when, it's just the way it is. But sometimes some of the real gnarly stuff, like suicide statistics or really horrible stories, are the things that become visible and get to the surface and end up in media. But there's just so much good stuff happening underneath that where, we're having conversations like this. There's all sorts of different initiatives where people are just trying to get out there and have a crack. So that's the good stuff, and I genuinely think it's making a difference, and it's only going to continue to do so.
Yeah. Sure. So do you happen to have a focus on the area of health you want to kind of focus on or hone in on, or is it just mainly global? Because when I first heard about Movember, is obviously with regards to more prostate health. Has it branched out from that into more of a general consensus, or is it more still primarily focused on that?
No, yeah, I mean, you're sort of right, like in the sense that, our three cause areas that we focus on with the funds raised are definitely mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer and testicular cancer, and probably men's health to speak in more generally. Like, absolutely, with the funds raised and the targeted programs that we do, it'll always be within those issues for men.
Yeah.
And actually, I've worked for Movember for 11 years, and right from day dot, we funded mental health initiatives. So it hasn't necessarily changed or anything. We haven't moved from prostate cancer to mental health. It's just now that there's a real acknowledgement of the issue within general population. So that's, in some regards, even though that's an issue and it's a challenge, it's created an opportunity for us to really channel that energy. There's heaps of people out there saying, I want to have a crack at this. What can I do? I see these guys have got some runs on the board. They're having a go. Let's get around them. So definitely in that sense, those are our cause issue areas. But, and this so much better than me, but when it comes to some of those things, actually there's a lot of crossover around, a lot of the things that we need to do to prevent those things are similar. And also, even though they might not seem like natural bedfellows, when a guy gets prostate cancer, depending on the type of treatment he has or what he does, quite often that means, can't get an erection, you have impotence, a lot of guys wear a bag, and so they get really anxious about going out into social settings because they're worrying about all sorts of different things. So, and that really affects their mental health. Yeah. So they're really quite closely linked, and we have programs that acknowledge that. But, I mean, in terms of what's coming up, actually the messages we're trying to put out during Movember are really quite simple. But for men, sometimes easy and simple is really hard, and it's around knowing your family history. Heaps of young guys don't know their family history. Having a relationship with your doctor, like lots of people don't have a relationship. They, within a 15-minute consult, they'll say, how you going, mate? Not bad. What have you been up to? Not much. And, that's their relationship with the doctor.
Yeah.
So think of it as a partnership and give them the information to help you as best as you can. Be physically active, the best preventative tool for anything. Be connected, have mates that you can talk about significant things about and spend time with people that make you feel good. Don't waste energy on people that make you feel shit, and it's those things that we smash out during the campaign, and it all sounds really easy, but actually that stuff's really, really hard.
Well, to make some of those changes in your life, you've got to actually make a huge change. It's a simple thing, but it's actually changing your thought pattern and process. So even say example, if you've got some really toxic friends that are really not helping you kind of level up or get to the next level, or they're holding you back, even just making the decision to kind of let them go can be huge, because that's been their identity for such a long time. So they're simple decisions, but like you say, they can be really, really big.
Totally, and that's why you always thrash that stuff, and you always encourage people to sort of look at what I think is the low-hanging fruit, but it's really, really difficult to pick sometimes. So, it's that whole thing, and you probably see this all the time, is like, sort of 30 days of moustaches, but 365 days of men's health. It takes a wee while to change your habit, Sure. So like, whatever good thing happens in Movember, like the conversation had because of the moustache, or something you integrate in. It might be you decide to run X amount of Ks or do X amount of steps, or you decide to check in with the doctor, or you give, the groomsman or the best man at your wedding a ring because you haven't talked to him for 6 months, which is rubbish. Well, don't stop just because Movember stopped.
Sure.
Hang on, that went good, so let's keep doing that and have those little wins that snowball, and then actually you'll hopefully look back in 12 months and go, I'm in a way better place than I was.
Yeah.
I still get shit wrong because men get stuff wrong, and we all get stuff wrong. We just do. But you're probably a bit better.
Yeah.
And
form the habit.
Yeah.
Make it a habit, not just a once off. Because we all do it, right? We go, oh, cool, Movember's here. I'm going to do push-ups. I'm going to go for a run every morning. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to go see the doctor. This is fantastic. I'm a health machine. Watch out, everyone.
Yeah,
it's over. Let's hit the piss, boys. And then it's all forgotten about. And that's
mate, you run into Christmas and you get a bit sloppy again, and then you make a New Year's resolution. But and that's okay. You're allowed to have a week off, no problems, because you probably had a big year. But like you say, if you can get those little nuggets of gold, those things that have actually really worked for you, then just try and bring it in and integrate it, and you'll actually find, if you're prepared to acknowledge things a little bit and look back every now and again and see what's happened in the last month, you might be like, oh, actually, going all right here. So, which is a really, really good thing to practice a bit of gratitude and give yourself a little pat on the back sometimes. Yeah.
And look, even in my own life, the two things that have really changed it is you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I've moved on friend groups multiple times throughout my life.
Yeah.
You always want to be the dumbest one in the room, all that sort of stuff, and that's helped me in a lot of ways, and I've grown a lot as a person. It's probably why I'm doing the podcast and stuff now, It's all grown from that.
Yeah.
And the other one's a quote from Grant Cardone is, if you want to meet your maker, leave white space in your diary.
Yeah.
If you're sitting around on the couch all day and it's a nice sunny day, of course you're going to feel like shit.
Yeah.
But maybe get out and mow the lawns.
Yeah.
Clean the house. Go check the mail, do something. And now you've got a little bit of purpose.
It's just little things, but it's an aggregation of all those little things that actually can turn into some pretty good stuff. So, and that's what I always say, don't look at the big picture, look at the journey. Just grab those little things along the way. And as I said, I haven't got my shit sorted, and most people don't. But if you're giving it a crack, then you're going in the right direction. So,
well, one thing I quite like about the Movember movement, it takes the embarrassment out of the health.
Yeah.
Because anytime I've had clients that they say, hey, Dr. Gabs, I've got prostate cancer, they always say with a sense of embarrassment or anything, like they shouldn't be talking about all of this, because like you said, it comes with a whole big list of other things, or even as well, like mental health, when it comes to, I'm not actually doing that great. Like it's got a sense of embarrassment. This the cool thing about Movember movement is it actually takes the embarrassment out of it, and it's actually it's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is just life.
Totally, mate. And I think we are getting there with that kind of reframing of all that sort of stuff, around, it's not mental illness, it's mental health. We have physical health and we're feeling a bit sloppy. We make a bit of a plan and we try and find a way to get back healthy again, and we feel good. And we can just be the same with our mental health. I'm not quite where I want to be. I'm acknowledging that. Yeah, okay, well, it's a bit of a plan. What does make me feel good? What are some of the things, the boxes I need to tick, which I know normally get me in a good place? And sometimes it's sleep, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's people and relationships, all that sort of stuff. But as long as we're acknowledging it and sort of all creating this space and environment where we let us and our mates all do that, then we're kicking goals. So, and we definitely are doing that a lot more, which is awesome. But it's all test and learn, it's all chipping away. I'm fortunate enough to talk to all sorts of different people from all sorts of walks of life. Young guys out with their first job on the building site through to CEOs who run big companies. Everyone's got their shit. It doesn't matter who you are. We all have days where it's a bit tougher than the other one. But if we're acknowledging that and actually looking out for the people as well, the people you spend a lot of time with, you're normally the one who can tell whether if they're a bit different, sort of spot the signs a little bit. And then if you're brave enough to step in and say, you're right, brother, and not, mate, should we go head outside, let's go for a bit of a walk or go grab a coffee. That early intervention, in all parts of health is just so important, because, we've got work to do still around, letting things drag out a wee bit before we take action. And, I'm a big fan of saying to people, it's what we do now that gives us runs on the board later on. So, particularly from a cancer side or cardiovascular side, or it's what I do now that's going to mean that I can watch my kids play sport, and I can
play the long game
and still, have a hit of tennis with my grandkids and be that sort of person. Life. Yeah, but, probably, try not to wait until something punches me in the nose when I'm a bit older and do something about it then. Try and sort of get a few runs on the board now, so I can not just hang around, but
enjoy life and get the most out of it. You know?
100%. You know, too many guys work their absolute guts out to sort of finish and die. Like, and that's a bit blunt, but it happens.
Yeah, trust me, I see it. I've got, especially when I was in Australia, I used to have huge, big CEOs of companies that they were so incredibly successful. Yeah. And they're like, once a month, I'm too busy. Yeah. And then I'm not joking. They injure themselves, they hurt themselves, and I was like, this would have been all preventable had you just looked after it and been proactive.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you, their assistant clears their entire week because their health is now at their priority. I was like, you didn't need to do this. So
yeah, mate.
So
I 100% believe that, and it's we're getting better, but still it's a good point around, even the most successful people who look like they're completely on top of it have still got massive blind spots, and they can work on themselves as well. And actually, like, while they're really important because they're normally in charge of big groups of people, so like if you've got leaders and managers who are looking after themselves properly, then that can flow on. But if you've got guys at the top who are really struggling with their own stuff, then it's a bit harder for that to flow through like really large cohorts of men. Some of these organisations have massive groups of men, and so while these guys are uber successful in terms of maybe what's happening with the company's success or their own paycheck or whatever it may be, the more guys who are leaders who are really doing it well with themselves and can flow on through others like that, that's a massive part of it as well, because I could write, we know there's a huge group of people around who know stuff, but we just know shit. We know what we should be doing, but it's the doing part, like getting us to do it, so that's me included. So anyone who's in a big organisation and leads big groups of men, they can actually really affect some pretty significant change on those groups of people.
Yep. So this is changing the topic a little bit.
Go for it.
Do you have a favourite Mo style?
Yeah, look, I do. I aspire. It's Tom Selleck, and the reason is just because of my age and stage. Like it was very much like, felt like it was a show I watched 1,000 times as sort of a young person into being a teenager. He wore it so well, like no one. I don't think anyone suited a moustache as much as he did, with the short shorts and the jet. Like he was pure quality, and like almost every. Like I know it was like my missus's first crush and all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of
hey babe,
So I'm forever trying
to in your bedroom.
exactly. And never quite getting there, but every Movember party you go to, or like end of work function or awards or anything like that, there's always a Tom Selleck. There's always a Magnum PI. That's just always there. So it's like, it's one of my favourites. Like probably the other ones you see a lot of are like Hulk Hogan just does the rounds like hard. Freddie Mercury does the rounds like super, super hard. Billy T does it a little bit as well. Yeah. Like, so there are some quite iconic Mo's, but a Richard Hadley in there, like who seem to keep coming back year on year. But but I think I can't really grow a handlebar. It doesn't seem to go there. So like I just try to go for that real Magnum bushy slug.
Excellent.
Across the top.
So do you start afresh, or do you build on what you've got?
No, I know the rules, mate. Like, if I don't know the rules, then no one does. But
a lot of cheats.
Yeah. I clean shave on the first and grow and groom the most beautiful moustache I can for the 30 days of November. And like, to be fair, like it takes a while. Like it does take a wee while. I used to get we used to do a lot for work. As to kick off the month and come have one of the blades, like the razor shaves. Yeah. So, put all the stuff on your face and open up the pores and go right in with the cutthroat razor,
really,
which is cool, pretty cool. Like I'd never, had that until I started working for Movember. It just shaves me too close though. It takes me too long to start.
At least 2 days growth.
It knocks me back like 3 or 4 days. So I was like,
I get the ingrowns.
So, certainly if I'm going for body, then I need to not have the
just do a blunt razor.
But so but there's obviously, lads, there's no such thing as a bad moustache in Movember. It's all part of the cause. So
it's, even if it's a couple wisps.
Yeah, totally. And I've seen some shockers, like, and they know they're shockers, but they just push through with it, which is great. But any sort of youngish fella with a blonde mo that's a bit wispy and all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, good on you, brother, for like, you know, having a crack and still trying to be part of the movement. Like, it's pretty cool. So
I know you've got an award for the best mo. Do you have an award for the worst mo?
we actually used to, like back in the day, we used to run Movember gala events with sort of end of month prize givings, which were pretty cool. Like, people would come dressed up as all those things I said, firemen, you know, come as firemen, come as policemen, like pretty awesome. And we had best mo, best team mo, so you get like groups of firemen, or like, it was pretty awesome. And then we'd have lane mo, exactly right, and we'd actually go around the room and judge and put sashes on people, and that was sort of my introduction to Movember, all those sort of years, and we did that in London, and it was pretty good fun. And yeah, we absolutely had the lane mo category, and would have, you know, 4 or 5 nominations on any given night, and yeah, like for a lot of those poor buggers, like, you couldn't see anything, and you'd say to them, mate, have you been growing the whole month? And they'd be like, yeah, man, I'm trying my hardest, I'm going big, and unfortunately, you know, there was very little to see. So, you know, but as I said, mate, they're all part of the team. Aren't they?
It's all about the effort, not the end result. So.
There you get those other pains in the asses who, like, literally, you know, they can pop up a handlebar in 2 days and they walk around showing it off, and you're like, oh, mate.
That's nice for that day of the week, but the rest of the year it's a pain in the ass for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And what about for our sisters that can't, well, most of them can't grow a moustache, I'd say. What do they usually grow out?
I'm not walking into that one, but...
I was like, geez, you've got to tread carefully. It's 2022 here,
we
mate.
actually had 6 or 7 years ago, we had a Mo sister who sort of was growing a moustache. There's some circumstances why she had one, and I can't remember, and she said, approached me and said, I'd like to sort of get on the bandwagon. I was like, wow, what do we do with this? Like, how are we going to go about this? So it was a bit of a curly one, but actually she did fantastically well and raised a bit of cash and was super brave with it. But I mean, in terms of grow a moustache, and obviously that's always, you know, our hero and our badge and our ribbon, but you know, there's 3 ways to participate: grow, move, so make a commitment to be physically active, because we know, like, being physically active is, you know, the best preventative health tool for everything, you know, like the stuff you do, cardiovascular, cancer, mental health, like, it's just good for you. And it doesn't matter whether it's just walking to work this month, it doesn't matter if it's just going out for lunch with a colleague and getting outside and getting some fresh air, or whether you need to sign up to something and make a bit of a commitment to an event, or you need to make a commitment to someone else to kind of achieve it. It doesn't matter, whatever works for you, but like, so many people have actually had really positive experiences with moving throughout the month, and then host an event as well. Like, we have any number of people doing awesome things, from end of month awards that we talk about, where all the girls, you know, award the best mows and worst mows for the month, through to, you know, things of more significance. But quite often, our Mo sisters are great movers, they're great hosters, but almost like as in life, you know, I think over 50% of donations come from our Mo sisters. So
wow.
It's pretty significant.
That's huge, yeah.
Almost every decent-sized workplace you go into, who's organising it, who's driving it, the Mo sisters, every single time. And also, like you say to the girls, just at least for the month, tell the lads they look good, you know, like, just give them a little pass, make sure they look sharp, and I know what your households are like, boys, but, you know, I need a bit of permission every now and again to do a few things. So you always say to the girls, let the boys have a run at it, and maybe jump in and do some physical activity with them as well.
Yeah. I know when we did it with our B&I group, the girls had an absolute blast.
Yeah.
When we were having our meetings, they had little stick-on moustaches, and they were putting them on during the meetings. And, and they all went. I think the second largest behind me was actually Leonie. She's a lawyer in town, and she raised a heap of money. Yeah. So, you know, it's cool to get them involved.
100%. And like, it is, you know, it's, you probably use the terms like it's health by stealth, it's fun as a Trojan horse, like whatever, however you want to phrase it. But like, that's why it works, and that's why at the core of what we always do, it should be fun. Like, that we say to people, have heaps of fun with it. Like, grow moustaches, have a bit of competition, bit of banter. You know, girls, put on the fake ones. Like, go for it. You know, like, because that breaks down those barriers. That creates a different atmosphere within your workplace. It creates an opportunity to be proactive about your health in a really, I think, not intimidating way. You know, just get out there and have a crack. And quite often people tell me, and I'm obviously, you know, hugely biased, but like, they're like, oh, it wasn't. We didn't just raise some money in that, but like, it was awesome, great for the workplace. We really enjoyed it, like, create heaps of camaraderie, and I'm like, wow, awesome, that's exactly what we want, you know.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
sorry.
was just going to say, as a movement, it's one of the largest, obviously globally.
Yeah.
What sort of figures do you raise in New Zealand in a year?
Yeah, man, we're so lucky. Like I always say that we're a local organisation with a global footprint. So like we're really fortunate. All the money that gets raised in New Zealand stays in New Zealand. But we're a part of this wonderful network all doing the same thing. Like we're all focused on the same work, and anything we do here, we can link up with other people in the world. We can get it peer reviewed. We can hit the ground running. It's a really collaborative model, which is awesome because it just means there's no duplication. There's no fucking around doing things that probably maybe have been tried in other similar markets and maybe didn't work. We can collaborate, and then that accelerates our outcomes to let us hit the ground running. In terms of our funds raised, super fortunate. We're like $4 million last year for Movember New Zealand. Globally, we're 100 million. So that gives us, a bit of scale in terms of some of the things that we're able to do. But I mean, I think still our role to play is very much we focus on preventative initiatives and programs. So, the services and crisis services are really important, and there's absolutely a role to play for them, but it's our job to take pressure off them. So if we can, amongst ourselves, better look out for ourselves, better look out for our mates, try and be super proactive and preventative so that people don't necessarily have to get into those sort of journeys and use those sort of services. That's the sort of stuff that we want to do. So get upstream a wee bit. So, and that's where we play. And if we're going really, really well, we can fund initiatives because they're all evaluated really robustly to see if we're creating change, to seeing if they're being effective. And if they are, then it becomes the role of others to pick that up. It's not our job to have a national screening program for prostate cancer. Not that there is one, but that's the job of others, of district health boards and governments. But if we can be that gap that then creates the opportunity for that, and that's what's happened with programs like Farm Strong, which is a mental health and wellbeing program for the agricultural community. We funded it for 4 years. Yeah. Now that is now funded, still remains today and is scaling up every year, but is funded by that industry. So that's real success for us. So now we can go off and focus our attention on what's another group or at-risk group of men that needs a hand as well. And that's why we work with New Zealand Rugby, because we do a mental health and wellbeing program with them, because they talk to men all the time. So it's not always what you say, but who says it, getting the messages out through the right people. And hopefully that program's going to have a similar sort of trajectory where, we've now been funding it for 3 years. We'll probably fund it again this year in some degree. But over time, I think it's already showing a lot of success that'll get picked up by others so that can get to even more men. So that's kind of how, when people say, what are you helping us do? It's sort of that stuff. It's like, helping us really get really good information to men so that they can help themselves and others. And the great thing about it is what we talked about earlier, is guys are really up for that now. Perhaps it was, a bit of a fight at the start, but we're starting to see a real change in attitude, and maybe that's because people are seeing benefit, or whether that's just because there's enough momentum there that actually, I actually want to be a good bugger. Yeah, I want to look after my mates. So
yeah, and we think there's a lot of power in these podcasts and stuff like that as well. We've talked about with parenting, whatever it may be. Yeah, parenting used to come home, don't talk unless you're spoken to, all the rest of it. Now your kids are saying, you can't speak to me that way. Yeah, and we're having to relook at how we parent. Yeah, and we're learning through podcasts and other things, going, actually, maybe that is a good way to look at it, or maybe I should address things that way. So just speaking about it, whatever it may be, the power in it is changing the world.
It's it doesn't matter what your passion is. It's all the same. Like, knowledge is power. Like, the more stuff you can tool yourself up, the better decisions you can make. Like, it doesn't mean you always get it right. Like, I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids, and you try and bring your best self home, but sometimes that's really tough. But again, it's all the easy stuff first. Like, don't come through the door on the phone. Just when you come home, off your phone for an hour. Like, don't check any emails for the first wee while or whatever. Like, all just real little things, but like. Yeah.
But they make a big difference.
Make a big difference. So that you come through and we all say, how was your day? And we genuinely care, and we ask questions. And I don't get that right every day. I try, but I don't sometimes. But it's like,
it's just even that awareness of where, I could have done better there.
Yeah. Well, situation. Your thing around. I just heard that Steve Hansen say that on a podcast somewhere, and it wasn't even about parenting, but it was just around relationships. And he's just saying, one thing is I'm I make sure I've got everything clear before I walk through the door. And I thought, geez, that's good stuff. Like really simple, really actionable. And so good on you lads for doing this and for all the other similar things that are out there where people just can try and pick out the things that relate to them and maybe they can integrate into their life to just get a little bit better.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I'd just like to commend you on all the work that you're doing. It's absolutely amazing to see, and just the movement. I knew of the movement before the movement, if you get what I mean. So it's really cool. So making a huge difference and just getting people talking and getting out there and not being embarrassed or shy.
Mate, it's thank you. It's awesome, and it's like, very much the ethos at Movember is you're just a roadie for the band. Like you just set it up and watch them go, and you really do. Like you put things in place, and like you say, give them the opportunity and the space to run with it, and people do. They just get out there and they be brave and have a bit of a crack, and some of the things people do, whether it be the conversations had or the fundraising, so amazing. Like signing up, trying to do 100k runs and this and that. It just blows you away. You're like, wow, this is how good's this? So it's very much about in any given year, we'll probably have about 15,000 people sign up to participate, and they probably help facilitate like 60 or 70,000 individual donations. So like that's the community. Who knows how many conversations come off the back of all that?
Huge.
And
you think about the reason why there would be such a high female input as well would be because it affects their life too. Husbands, brothers, people they care about. So in many different aspects, so you can understand why they're massively getting behind it.
Oh, totally. I mean, you hear, like you say, in any good podcast, you'll hear smart people say the same thing, and it always comes back to like people and relationships are the most important part of anything. Like in any business, any parenting, relationships, whatever it may be, it comes back to how do you have good relationships? How do you listen? How do you be a good person? Like that's what the stuff they'll smash, won't they, all the time? So, and that's all true. Like that's 100% true. So I think we're really lucky that heaps of good people get out there and carry the messages for us, and it's you hope that it has that ripple effect where they talk to someone who then talks to someone else, and it just keeps spreading the good stuff.
Yeah. So we tend to ask this question around the end of the podcast, yes. And we tend to talk about like your previous life and right. things and growing through, but this has been a little bit more of a movement.
Yep.
So, and Movember movement. So is there anything that you would have told yourself at the start, any advice you'd give yourself at the start of this movement 10 years ago?
Oh, wow. Geez, I'm not too sure. I think the best thing about it is like, I sort of say this a lot to people, like I can get up and talk about Movember like we just have today to 10,000. I don't really care, like because you're familiar with the content and what you're going to talk about, and so it's reasonably straightforward. But actually having, pretty brave and meaningful conversations with my friends, my best friends who know me inside out from university and school and sports and all that sort of stuff, that's still really, really tough. So I think, at the start, was I as brave and vulnerable as I could have been at the start? I'm not too sure. Like that probably took a wee while. But I suppose that would be one of the, maybe not my bit of advice for myself, but an observation over an 11-year period is like, I'm on the journey as well. Like it's not, I don't have the job because I got it sorted, or I'm on the journey, and I learn from all the people I deal with, so that's what's been really, really cool. And I wouldn't have expected that when I started. I really didn't know, really, to be honest, what I was getting myself in for. Yeah. So it's been a pretty cool ride in that regard, and I'm pretty goddamn sick of moustaches in December, I'll tell you that. bit of moustache fatigue, but you have a bit of a break, and you pick yourself up again after Christmas and get going again, and it's something I really enjoy.
And I've got another little question. Do you have any advice for when the mo gets to that itchy stage?
So push through like 100%.
It's all mental. It's all mental. David Goggins, that mo.
Take your mind off it.
Push through, like run with it. But man, I think I'm certainly one of those. I'm originally a Christchurch, Lincoln University, many sides of my family are farmers and all that sort of stuff, and things like moisturiser and all those sort of things were frowned upon as a young man, so hey, if it means it's going to stop it getting itchy or that sort of stuff for a little bit through the middle of Movember, then don't be afraid to use a bit of product or a bit of moisturiser or a bit of that Triumph and Disaster stuff. That's all good these days, lads.
Are they a side sponsor or?
Yeah, well they have supported us over the years for sure, and I think they're definitely trading on the new age man as well, aren't they? So hey, if that's what's going to work for you and get you to push through those tough middle weeks, then mate, lather it up, go for it.
Or if you want to go back, David Goggins, you'd just say go run a marathon. It'd be pretty hard to think about your itchy moustache if you're running a marathon.
That guy, off the hook.
Yeah,
he's insane. Yeah. But just think of Goggins, and then you might think, oh, it's not that bad, is it?
So is there any ways that people should find Movember? Obviously, there's a website and app now.
Yeah, 100%. Like that side of things hasn't changed at all. Like go to movember.com, sign up to, Grow, Move or Host. And I always say as well, like in theory, like hopefully we've done a good job. Like it's a one-stop fundraising shop. It's got everything that you need. You can do it from your phone, your computer. Like it's QR codes. It's all this sort of stuff. It should be good. So get in there and use it. And also it's got, digital assets, Movember style guides, the rules, everything. Things to put on the posters at work, on the intranet, like it's all there.
Yep, take selfies of yourself, add your targets to it, all that stuff. Yeah.
Every day. But then I suppose the thing I always say to people as well, like, that Movember is very much the power of the collective. So like if it's one moustache, one donation, one move and one conversation, like if that's it, that helps like significantly. So, just jump on board in any way, shape or form. As I said, tell your mates they look good, ask how they're going this month, and if we sort of tick a few of those boxes, we're 100% going in the right direction.
Yep. So to our listeners, we'd love you to jump on our team. So if you message me, we'll throw you on our team for Common Unity. Otherwise, get a group of your workmates and your friends together, throw a team together and see which one of you can raise the most money.
100%. Thank you, lads. I appreciate your support and get me on here. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Cool. Thank you.